You're listening to News Talk Saga 960. Also streaming live on saga960am.ca.
You are listening to New Theory Radio. Theory Radio.
Hello and welcome to another edition of New Theory Radio here live on Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa. I am your host and I'm super excited for all of you for joining us here on this beautiful Sunday evening or late afternoon, whatever you want to call it. And this is the show where we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. And we have another exciting program lined up for you today as I'm going to be joined by two fantastic guests. One is a known YouTuber who has quite the following, and he's based here locally in the Mississauga area. It is my good friend Shimmy Coco Puffs, or aka Dan Shimmy. And then I'm also going to be joined by another really good friend. She's been a media personality that's been involved with City TV, Omni. She used to be a reporter for NBA Canada, a social media person, a podcaster, a lot of different titles. And she's going to be here with me because she's quite the basketball aficionado. And that's my good friend, Payal Doshi. And on today's show, we are actually going to be theorizing on three topics. I'll do a quick intro on the three topics right now. We are going to talk about bandwagon fans. Yes, the Raptors are on the verge of winning their first NBA championship tomorrow. Fingers crossed. I think we all think that's definitely going to happen, and I definitely feel it in the air. I think it's the Raptors moment. But there's a lot of fans out there that are supporting the Raptors. Some that have been supporting them since day one. Some that have been supporting them since probably the last game. So we are going to theorize on bandwagon fans and whether that's a good or bad thing. We're also going to be theorizing on social media likes. If you've been paying attention to your Instagram, you might have noticed that your actual like numbers may have disappeared and that they're only visible when you click through on the actual links. And that's actually throwing a lot of people many different curveballs regarding social media followings, regarding if you're an influencer, how you go about your business. And it's something that Instagram rolled out just recently, and it looks like they're actually rolling out of it now. Looks like they're going back to the numbers, but I wanted to talk to the panel about that and get their theories regarding how they feel about like numbers disappearing and whether it's all about likes. And like I mentioned earlier, it is a beautiful day here in Peel in both Brampton and Mississauga, or wherever you're listening to it. I'm sure it's beautiful. And summer is definitely upon us. So I want to theorize about summer. I want to theorize about summer rituals. I want to theorize about summertime. You know, there is a summertime blues. It's a real thing. Some people, as much as they love the nice weather, sometimes it affects them in a negative way. And I wanted to pick both Shimmy and Payal's points of views and get their theories on what some of their summer rituals are and just how they go about staying positive over this beautiful season. Well, we are going to take a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, I'm going to be joined by Shimmy and Payal to theorize here on New Theory Radio on Saga 960. Here on New Theory Radio on Saga 960 AM, News Talk Saga 960 AM. I'm your host, Nav Nanwa. And yes, this is the show where we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. And it is time now to introduce my panelists, my lovely guests that are going to be here to talk about and theorize on a bunch of different topics here on the show. I'm going to start first on my left. He is a YouTuber based here in the GTA. He's also quite the social media fanatic or all-around great social media guy.
I'm an enthusiast. I'm obsessed with social media.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was a little far away from the microphone. So if you can hear me now, guys.
Classic Shimmy. Well, yeah. It's my homie Shimmy Coco Puffs. He's in the building. Shimmy, thanks so much.
I absolutely love social media. Eat, sleep it. I do everything with it.
Yeah.
I actually wake up. First thing I do, social media. When I'm on the toilet, everything social media.
Yeah.
But with that, so what I did in my life was build a following from YouTube.
Yeah.
And that actually brought me so many crazy opportunities to the point where I actually didn't follow through with my education.
Really?
And my parents were not the happiest when I dropped out of university.
Wow.
With only 4 courses needed left.
So you were in your final year of university.
Actually, I
Oh, so I get you to talk right to the mic.
Sorry. Is that good now? We good? Okay. But yeah, so
clearly you're new to radio.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm more, I go more on like stage.
Oh, and, yeah.
And I shoot more videos. Yeah. So I actually don't have that much radio experience. So it's really cool that you guys brought me out for an opportunity.
Anytime, Shimmy. And you know what? Again, you're someone that's definitely involved in the community, especially when it comes to like the Asian community too.
Oh, absolutely.
You're quite the ambassador.
And in general, I feel like in a time in a world like this where it seems like we got to be careful here, but there's strong signs of separation,
Totally.
And when I feel, in my personal opinion, that if we all came together, how much more efficient would we be as a species?
Mm-hmm.
That's my honest opinion. And it's really unfortunate that we have interpersonal / civil issues, right? We can't even all get along. So we have a lot of steps to go before we can truly progress as people.
Wow.
So I feel like my main message is to really bring people all together. And I think the internet is a very good opportunity to connect everyone all together.
Dude,
you know what I mean? Like we're so close to being able to reach every single person out there. But there's so many factors out there that stop us along the way.
That was really deep, man. I'm not sure how to follow that, but yeah, I love it.
I don't know. I feel like the internet is bringing us a really great opportunity to really do good in the world, but unfortunately, there's potentially bad with it. There's a balance between good and bad. You need both, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm sure we'll definitely talk about some of those things because I think some of the topics that we're going to be theorizing about definitely touch on the internet and just the impact that it can actually have on somebody. And joining you as well on the show is somebody who I've known for quite some time. Someone I actually looked up to when it comes to just media in general, because you were someone that was doing it way before I was, and it's taken you pretty much all over the world. You've worked,
really has.
Yeah, you've done a lot when it comes to just here locally with like Omni TV, Rogers, City TV. Then you went to did a little stint with NBA Canada,
right?
And then now you're like based in the U.S., still in the basketball world, and now you're joining us here because you're in town because you're going to Game 5 tomorrow. It's my good friend Payal Doshi.
All right,
round of applause.
Thank you. I am so excited about where this team has come, the Toronto Raptors. Diehard fan since day one.
Inside the Purple Room.
Yes. You're taking it way back.
Way back.
I would always tell my parents, I'm like, if I can't play the game of basketball, I want to do something pertaining to it.
Yeah.
So I went into the whole broadcast field, and it wasn't easy. It was definitely a struggle. There were days and months where doors would get shut in your face, and it would be like, how am I ever going to get this opportunity? So, I took it upon myself to get a mini DV camera, set up my speaker stand as a tripod, and point and shoot and just talk Raptors after each and every Raptor game. Like, it's just unreal and so exciting to see where they've come now, and just to see Jurassic Park and how diverse this country is, and just bringing everyone together. And it's just such an awesome experience to be part of and to hopefully see more of as the seasons progress, as everything goes on.
Exactly. And what's crazy about Payal, but also awesome, is when you were doing so Inside the Purple Room was like your web series on the Raptors, right?
Yes.
So you used to go behind the scenes, you used to interview players. This is like post Vince Carter. So you're talking about when the Raptors like were not good. And like Payal was like going there, probably dealing with players that were like, why am I in Toronto? Why am I here? I'm just, I really just want to go back to the US. And like you were pushing it through. Like these guys weren't making the playoffs, and you were still covering them, still giving them attention.
Right.
And there's like a select few people that I know in sort of the media world that when it comes to this run that they're on, like I'm very happy for, because they've all, like you and a couple other people, like my buddy Sasha Calera, who used to be for Vice, like so many of these people that I know that like follow this team religiously, that this is your moment. Like this is the moment that you guys have been dying for, and I'm so happy it's finally happening.
And if Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals wasn't emotional, like I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I would literally since day one, I was in grade 5, but I remember as I grew, I was getting more involved, more interested in the game of basketball, where it came a point when I would not write homework in my agenda, but I would write Raptor game summaries.
Really?
And I have like stacks and stacks of game
She was actually
summaries.
showing me a video
are you
of
serious?
journal logs full of just technical words along all these plays. It was actually insane. She is seriously one of the most legitimate fans I've met, even though we've known each other for less than 1 hour, but I can already tell she is a legitimate fan. I will admit, for example, that's actually one of our topics, but being a true bandwagoner, you know?
Oh, come on, man. It happens.
But of course, but look at what's going on, though. You know, this is literally a historical moment.
Yes.
Like, this is insane, even if you're not an NBA fan. You know, how many people were non-NBA fans that have jumped on now? You know, like, if you statistically actually put a number to it, I would maybe say majority, no joke.
Yeah.
Like, this is insane. Like, where were these fans before, realistically?
You know what? That's a great point you bring up.
Yes.
And again, and Payal's super excited to jump in, but I'll do a quick introduction. So the first topic we're going to theorize about. No, it's okay. It's okay.
I was like, oopsie,
There's a lot of passion in this room. I love it. The first topic that we're going to theorize about is bandwagon fans. And Shimmy, I think you bring up a good point, because a lot of people, typically when a team does well, this is when they get introduced and become a fan. Mm-hmm. And you know, there's obviously people that have been there, like a Payal, that's like been there from like the very beginning, that's like seen the team not at its best. But then you have like this run that they've been on, which they've actually been on, which has been truly inspiring, to the fact that, you know, we've seen Jurassic Parks pop up in like Celebration Square,
right?
And I almost call it Jurassic Square, but Garden Square in Brampton, even Halifax had like a sick party. Regina, like you're seeing like the entire country rally behind this team.
It's not just Toronto.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things I wanted to talk to both of you guys about, and maybe I will begin with you because you are a diehard fan, is, you know, what is your theory on bandwagon fans? Is it something that, you know, used to be a faux pas back in the day, but now, because in Canada we're so, like, the actual presence of a basketball team is so limited only to Toronto, that it's almost allowed to be a part of this because it truly is for everybody? Or as a diehard fan, does it bother you that you're seeing everyone and their mother wearing a Toronto Raptors jersey, wanting to cheer on this team, and maybe not even knowing, you know, who Kawhi Leonard actually is?
That's very true. Yeah, no. You know what? Originally, it did bother me, because I was just like, oh, like, you have all these people who might not know a thing about this team, but yes, like, to your point, have been invested now in these games. But now I've come to a point where it's just like, I appreciate it, actually. And it just seems as though it's bringing everyone together. I have friends who message me and are just like, I thought of you while I'm watching this game, but they're just like, I am glued to my TV. And that really resonates with me, because I'm just like, okay, like, we're seeing so many people, different backgrounds, different ages, everyone just pulling together for this country, for this team, and just to see them take the next level, and just it's really interesting to see how sports can really bring everyone together. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's how I kind of feel about it as a bandwagon.
Right. So just off of that point that sports brings people together, I want to also bring up how many of these so-called new fans are also actual sports fans.
That's true too.
Right?
Because I feel, for me, I wasn't admittedly the biggest sports fan in general. However, I did follow the NBA way back in the early 2000 eras, you know, like the true Vince Carter days. That's when I was truly into the NBA. And honestly, just hearing about how this was like a common topic to be talked about amongst people who I never thought would have been like NBA or basketball or even sports fans, that's what really got me, because I would literally be walking through the mall and I can hear conversations through different demographics, like ages, ethnicities, maybe even people talking in different languages, I swear, about like what's going on with the Toronto Raptors.
Even like walking down the street and you see someone wearing a Raptors hat and they're wearing a Raptors hat, like I've given so many random acknowledgments, random like, let's go Raptors, we the North, like props. Like I'll be out, like for example, I was hosting an event on Friday, and in between the actual music sets they had the game on the screen, and it was just crazy how people I didn't even know were just rallying around each other when when Danny Green was hitting those threes, and like when Fred went down, like you just saw everybody in the room just really feel like this team is one of their own. And I'll be honest, one thing I kind of want to pose out there is it truly because, and again, I'm only going to speak on behalf of us three because we are sort of a part of a visible minority group, you could say, when it comes to South Asian and Asian. But is it because the appeal of basketball is so universal that it allows us to really attach ourselves to it versus because would you see this happening with hockey per se? Like, I don't know.
You know what? I think that it's so easy to play the game of basketball. All you need is a basketball, and there are people across this world who will play without even wearing shoes or are out there, just kind of doing. It's just such a simple game to play. It's kind of like soccer in a way that kind of brings the community together. And I feel like through the years, I've seen just such a influx of people playing the game, and I've just seen it more readily available to play the game. I feel like growing up, it was hard to find camps or to see the players on the courts because, it can get tough. Of course, in the winter to really play this game, and there weren't really many courts that were accessible during the winter times, like at the community centers or anything like that. But now they're so readily available, and there's so many guys. You've seen so many Canadians who are now entering the draft, who are going to the NBA or playing in Europe. So it's definitely a sport that's easy to play, I would say. Just picking up the ball and kind of doing your thing.
Literally, I still remember, I'm thinking about when I grew up. Getting a basketball, to your point, was less of an investment for my parents versus buying hockey equipment or
you need to get ice skates, all the padding, the pucks. Right. So actually, growing up in Chatham, all the kids.
Chatham, is that where you grew up?
Yeah, I'm actually from Chatham.
Wow.
So I am from Chatham, and I grew up with a lot of kids who played hockey. And my parents, we didn't have the most money growing up, and we actually couldn't afford me to play hockey growing up. And it's because literally the ice skates and the hockey stick and all the equipment itself, it really adds up. Then the fees to actually play within some house leagues and things like that, it adds up, right? But then to her point earlier, the fact that you can just pick up a basketball. You don't even need a net. You could work on your dribbling aspects, your skills, your skill set, and that'll carry over to basketball in itself because dribbling is literally the main foundation. So I think, in my opinion, there's historical, cultural differences among all the sports, for sure, especially. And I think the real fans who grew up with the sport will know potentially the differences, right? It's hard to really... It's subjective to say which sport would have more of that cultural impact to this day, because I think we are where we are for the NBA and with the Raptors because this is a truly first time thing. Yeah. And when it comes to hockey, I feel they won the Stanley Cup before, in that sense. But this is completely something different. This
totally different.
Right. And the sport has really gained momentum over the years too, especially in the Canadian industry, right? So I feel like everything is just really blowing up with the basketball industry. And I think what's going to happen next after the championships, it's really going to dictate the Canadian cultural references for the next year. Because to win the championships and to pull that off again is pretty hard to do.
Tough. Well, that's one of the reasons why I copped the money for game one. I was telling my wife because I told her, I'm like, I don't know when this is really going to happen again because we've never had it happen. For all we know, tomorrow they shut it down and they win the championship, and this ends up becoming a dynasty run, right? Who knows, right? I'm sure we'd all love to see that, but it was one of those things where I kept telling myself once in a lifetime. And I still remember my dad telling me about when Joe Carter got his two runs on the Phillies and won the World Series and touch 'em all Joe, right?
Yeah.
I still remember he still remembers where he was when he heard that. And I was for me, my version of that was the Game 7 Kawhi shot on the Sixers because I was there.
Yeah.
But now now it's being at game one because it was almost like my World Series moment, right? It's one that I'm probably going to tell my kids about. Like the Raptors made it. And also I find interesting, and I hate to and I'm not trying to use our backgrounds as a reason why this is happening, but the fact that you have like a super fan Nav that's been there, you know, for the last 24 years, the fact that we have like Lynn Sanity, Jeremy Lin on the team, which I remember, like, don't get me wrong, like, I think when he joined the team, like, there was such a big, strong embrace amongst, like, the Canadian.
I feel Toronto was I followed the story a bit, right? And I felt Toronto.
I'm pretty sure you met him a couple of times, too, haven't you?
No, it wasn't me. No, like, through connections, no. Like, I could definitely, but no, I haven't met him directly. But I heard that he was very welcomed. Even just watching the plays with him being involved and the dynamics with the players, you know, they really embraced him to be a part of the team.
Yeah.
And just quick talking on it, I think he still needs to just find the stride because he joins around a lot of teams, you know, Lynn. So I feel if he finds like that spot where he's given like a true chance, like he'll get his time. But for the comparison through like the Linsanity days, like it's completely different because I just followed up on that recently because of this whole Raptors like shenanigans, and I followed up on the NBA in general, and it is completely different from like the early 2000 eras. Like
it is.
I don't even know like any of the new players, and it's majority new players. It's like all new school players. It's like the new era players.
It's crazy, man.
It's actually really interesting because to see the game develop in this way as well, because I was more of like a T-Mac fan back in the day, right? And I feel it's really different from how the dynamics were in the NBA versus now, right? And that could be subjective in so many ways, right? And I feel as the NBA progresses, and especially to see the Raptors, an underdog team, to come out on top, like literally, this is like a legitimate Cinderella story. Like anything can literally happen. So I'm really, like we were saying earlier, like really interested to see like what would happen next. But then that also depends on what is Kawhi gonna do?
Right? It's so true. It all depends on what he's gonna do.
The man of mystery. He's such a mystery. No one knows.
No one knows. He comes out today at media availability and he says, you know, someone asked the question, so like the rumor has it that you bought a property in Toronto, and he's like, no, not yet. Not yet.
So he drops a hint.
Right? Not yet. So, you know, you never know.
He has the best responses to questions.
He does.
My absolute favorite was Christmas time when someone's like, "Hey, Kawhi, like, what's your Christmas tradition? Like when you grew up?" And he's like, "No, man, no." And like it was like the funniest clip. Like you could tell he just was too focused, and some random reporter just was asking about Christmas questions, and he's just like, "No." And like even the one that happened a few weeks ago where I think when they were down against Milwaukee.
Yes.
And he was like, and they were like, "Oh, so what's your plan for game 3?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just going to go play in Toronto."
Right. I love that. And I feel like this team, we've grown up with this Raptors team in the sense of we've learned the game of basketball with this team in that way, right? And through the eras too. I mean, you've been able to see the changes in the way the game's been played from that low post game to now we have like the 3-point shot is like what sells in that sense, if you could say. But we're watching some of the greatest players right now playing this game, but just the way in which it's been able to, I feel like fans can relate to these players at some capacity or the other too, based on their stories. So that really helps as well when it comes to, just talking about the game and like just even if you're a bandwagon fan or if you're like a fan since day one, I think that definitely resonates with you. You know what I mean?
The one aspect of this whole bandwagon conversation that I do want to talk about, like the one positive I see, because I think we've all, at one point or another, we all were that bandwagon fan at some point.
Right. Yep.
Some of us are right now, Shimmy.
Yeah, I can openly admit it. I am. I mean, how can I not be?
It's okay. You know, we definitely accept you. But like, it's funny because the one great thing I see about this, and I think it's going to be very interesting, moving forward, is that I think I can totally see a lot of these bandwagon fans being real fans next season.
absolutely.
Like Shimmy, like someone like you, like I'm sure, like
there's no reason for me not to follow them now.
Exactly.
Especially because they pulled off the underdog story. Why wouldn't you want to follow the continued success story?
Exactly. So especially people I know that were hardcore into hockey, hardcore into the Jays, like hardcore into just, nothing too mainstream. That all of a sudden, like, wow, these Raptors are really doing something. Because for the longest time, the Raptors have been a butt of, like, they've been, like, jokes, right? Like,
100%.
People would crack jokes on the Raptors. Like, there was still, people still predicted, like, we were going to go under when the Grizzlies got, like, changed locations. Like, people thought we were next to go, and people thought MLSC was going to sell. Like, there's all these different theories that were going on New Theory Radio. All these different theories that were popping up regarding the actual team. Sorry, it's a quick plug. But it's just fascinating now to see, like, for example, I think it's going to be impossible to get season tickets now.
There's a wait list, actually.
There is, yeah.
It's interesting because my brother has season tickets, so he was actually talking.
Those are coveted now.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, it's like, I want to say at least 5-year wait list or something to get season tickets. It's a hot commodity. It's a good thing he invested in them, like, years ago, right? So that definitely I find is fascinating.
And that's the one aspect of it. Like, when I hear stories about that, like, that's when I give your brother mad props, because he was there on, like, the lean years.
Yep.
Like, he was there when people like Bosch didn't want to play in Toronto, when the whole Carter fiasco happened, when, we were, like, our star player was a young DeRozan who still was trying to find himself. And now for all these people that I know that have consistently kept on with this team, for them to actually have this moment it's truly awesome. I love it.
I feel like it's awesome too to the fandom as well, like Shimmy being the casual fan, and now you're gonna see yourself watching more frequently.
I think it's insane, like, even just seeing from everyone. Okay, so everyone, if you were to check your IG stories right now, especially tomorrow night, it's going to be a majority of people just showing what's going on with them watching the game. And it's crazy that it's brought this community sense. Like, I don't even remember the last time I actually sat down with friends to, like, watch TV. Yeah. Like, realistically. But this really brought people together.
There's a sense of FOMO here.
Right.
Yes.
Such a sense of FOMO. And again, like, I'm probably guilty of it too, because I went to game one, but that was because I wanted to be there, because I'd been there when they didn't make it. Yep. Like, I've been like, I remember buying Sprite Zone tickets for $20. Like,
wow. Those were the days. I remember that.
Yeah. I remember being at McMaster University, and, like, there was a Raptors rep that would reach out to all the student clubs, being like, "Hey, you should host your next big student event at a Raptors game." And it was like a fundraising event that you could do to raise money. No one wanted to go. Like, I was like, I don't want to go see the Raptors, right?
Right.
And then now look at these prices.
Yeah, no, through the roof right now.
Well, I think when I last checked, I think my wife was, when we're in the car just now, she mentioned that courtside tickets are going for $60,000.
Oh my goodness! I believe it.
And they still get bought out.
That's like Shimmy YouTube money right there.
That's like literally, okay, I'm just gonna invest everything, go to this game, and then I can't do anything else anymore. Like, it'd be worth it though. I think it's worth it to see them win the champions.
And maybe just disappear.
And then I maybe create content out of that, and then that'd be my last piece of content dedicated.
You know what I also find is really great too is you're seeing these stories of people that are Canadians who are coming in from Australia or Hong Kong.
Right.
Yeah. I had a friend who told me that she was flying in from Hong Kong. She's like, I probably spent more time in the air than I am at game two. Yeah. And it's just like, you have to be a part of the moment. Everyone wants to be a part of the moment.
Totally.
I mean, I flew back because I'm like, I can't be elsewhere. I need to be part of the moment. Like,
exactly.
That buzz that you sense in the air right now, there's nothing like it.
Oh, I had serious FOMO because my wife and I went to Florida for vacation, and when Game 6 happened, when they beat Milwaukee, I was just like, and I literally, like, I told her, like, I shed a tear because I was like, I can't believe this. Like, I can't believe we're actually going to the finals. Already in the back of my mind, I was just like, we already won. Like, we won because this moment just happened. And I remember seeing on my IG everyone going wild in Toronto. Mm-hmm. Like, a coworker that you and I work with in our secret job was out there as well. And I texted her. I was like, oh, I wish I was downtown just to feel that, because honestly, like, that's such a moment. Like, that's such a moment. And even the fact that, again, I rep Brampton because I'm from Brampton to the fullest. Like, seeing what drastic. Seeing Garden Square get behind it and just, being amongst people in your community and celebrating is awesome. I know, Shimmy, you live close to Celebration Square, right?
I literally, in my spot I just moved out of, I could literally look down and see Celebration Square.
Really?
And the energy, the insanity, and even just knowing, for some reason, I literally think our new national anthem is car honks. I feel like that's all you hear when we win a game. Like, it's literally honking for like hours on straight.
And don't forget the fireworks.
Yeah, the fireworks.
That are flying out of the cars. Like, where is that coming from?
So, but then we are, I feel, overall civilized, like the Canadian stereotype. We haven't like had serious riots or anything.
We haven't, and knock on wood, we haven't had our Vancouver Canucks moment. And I hope we don't. I hope we don't.
Fired.
Please.
It's true,
I love all my peeps in Vancouver, a lot of family out there, but when they turn the city upside down because they blew the Stanley Cup, like, come on, like, don't take it on your city. It's not your city's fault, okay, that your team blew it. But actually, as I breaking news, KD questionable for Game 5. So I don't know. Tomorrow night might be an interesting night.
It will be interesting. He was going to practice with the team after media availability, so it's going to be interesting to see how good he is to really get out there and play. It's really interesting.
So honestly, and I feel like we can do like a whole theory show on Kevin Durant because he's such an interesting guy. But as we kind of wrap up this first segment, I want to get just one last prediction, and Payal, we'll begin with you. Do the Raps bring it home tomorrow? And then how big do you think the actual like do you feel like it's just going to be a week-long holiday and everyone's just going to be celebrating every single day, or do you see this like how big do you predict this to actually be for the city?
It's funny because someone on Twitter the other day was saying tomorrow productivity across every work environment is going to be at an all-time low.
Yeah.
And I feel it. I feel like I can taste the championship. It's like right at our fingertips. I think they close it out tomorrow.
Really? So what happens if they don't?
Then I'm going to have to fly back and then fly back home.
Is there a chance for that? Do you think there's a chance?
There could be. Yeah. I mean, I don't rule out the Warriors. They're two-time champions for a reason, right? Yeah. I mean, I know that they have something up their sleeves, but they don't seem to be the same Warriors that we've seen in the past win these two championships. And I think everyone at this point is banged up, but I don't think that they have what it takes to get over the hump of the defensive schemes that the Raps are throwing out there, and just the way in which Nick Nurse has been able to really showcase his talents as a coach.
Sorry, hit my head on the...
Shimmy's having his own series with the...
Sorry, guys. Please continue, fam.
Shimmy's having his own series with the microphone.
Shimmy, it's on to you. On to you.
Shimmy, I'm actually expecting the same level of analysis.
Oh, goodness. Oh, goodness gracious. Is it because I interrupted on accident? Yeah. Oh, my apologies.
No, not at all. Go on.
It's fine.
Well... Coming from a recent bandwagoner, this is from the POV guys.
Self-admitted, you gotta appreciate this guy.
Yeah, I'm open about it. Like,
I love it.
How can you not admit that you're a bandwagoner? Like, we're all proud at this point, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And to come from an analysis from someone who doesn't follow the NBA closely as much anymore, the momentum is so strong right now. Mm-hmm. It's insane how much we were against the odds, and we still keep coming out on top.
I'm going to say straight up, I feel like we're the best second half team I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, like 100%. The end game play is always so clutch.
I've never seen a second half, like, maybe sure there's been moments with, like, LeBron and the Cavs, right, or maybe, like, LeBron and the Heat, but, like, there's literally times where you see the team fall, like you see the opposing team just fall apart. It happened to the Bucks, happened a little bit to the Sixers. I think the Sixers were still pretty evenly matched when it came to us.
Yeah.
But it happened with the Bucks. It's happening with Golden State. I think when it comes to the second halves, like no one can touch us.
Right, and there's a huge psychological game to it, and that's what I think is actually carrying the momentum as well. Like, seriously, like the spiritual and the craziness level of the energy that the fans bring to this table. Like, how can you not appreciate that in that sense too? You know, like no matter what happens, I think we are respectful enough as fans to really understand things don't always go as planned. But I feel the momentum, because it's so strong, there's no way we can't win this. No, like, exactly. That's my honest opinion. From my analysis from a bandwagon.
That's actually really good. Well, one last one, and it's a two-parter. and I'll ask you first, and Shimmy, I'll ask you second.
This is like school.
I know.
This is hard.
Because this literally came to my head. No matter what happens, does Kawhi stay in Toronto? And if he stays in Toronto, what area does he buy his house in?
Ooh.
And Payal, will begin with you.
Good question. I mean, I would hope that he would buy a house where I grew up, but I mean, that's probably not going to be the case. Maybe he buys a house, I would say close to somewhere in Forest Hill. Maybe.
Okay.
Maybe where Drake resides.
So Kawhi's like a Forest Hill kind of guy?
He could be.
I'll see
he could be.
Okay, so Shimmy, let's ask you.
Okay, so
Actually,
then,
and does he stay?
And does he?
Right, I was gonna assume. I was like, she's gonna assume he's staying.
Yeah,
I am totally assuming he's staying. I think that if they win it all, I think he's staying.
True, it would be a nice ending to the story,
Yes.
like a nice cherry on top.
Because I could totally see at the parade people just chanting 1 more year, 2 more years, like please stay, like Kawhi and dine, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, okay, so Payal thinks he's going to stay and he's going to move to Forest Hill. Shimmy, does Kawhi Leonard stay after season, win or lose? And where does he live if he does stay?
I feel I agree. If they do win, why wouldn't he stay? Unless, he's still kind of exploring himself and he wants to see other challenges out there, right? But I feel because of how much he's become like an iconic player, it just makes sense for him to stay.
He has a whole country behind him.
Right.
This is like Vince Carter level.
Yes.
It just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But then, like I said earlier, it doesn't always go to plan. But I would assume he would stay. And if he does stay, I feel definitely wouldn't be a downtown guy. I feel like he wouldn't get like a downtown condo kind of guy. But then you never know. But I feel like he might be out in the quieter suburbs somewhere.
Honestly, I'm going to agree with you. I personally think, a part of me feels like even if we don't win, I think he might stay. I don't know. Like, I feel like he's such an anomaly. Like, he's going to always have his best shot in the East, unless again we start seeing, obviously Kyrie's already in the East, but unless we see like a Kevin Durant move to the East, we'll see what happens. So I'm going to say he stays. I'm going to agree with you. I think Kawhi would be like an Ajax Pickering kind of guy.
Yeah, this dude's quiet.
Yeah, he is. That's true.
I feel like he'd love to go somewhere secluded. I think he'd even go to like Milton. I think he'd even go to like Bradford and like right down the 400, just like buy a spot like close to Barrie. Yeah, and just like one of the funniest tweets, and we'll go to commercial right after this. One of the funniest tweets that I saw was they're like, "Oh, Kawhi's the kind of guy that he'll win the NBA championship, be called Employee of the Month, and just drive home, like not even celebrate."
There's so many good memes about him out there. Like, I'm tempted to just like drop them all too afterwards.
I saw one about a mood board where it's just his face, but it's just like no expression on his face whatsoever. Anytime he does anything,
it's true though.
Funny.
Oh my god! But now I want to shift the focus a little bit, and let's go on to our second topic. And just recently, you guys, we talked about this before we got on the air. Instagram, as of right now, has removed the actual number of likes that you get on a post. And it's slowly rolling back, like it's slowly coming back. I've noticed more on business accounts that you can actually see numbers, but on your personals you can't. But it definitely, when they did roll it out, it definitely took a lot of people by storm. A lot of people were very indifferent about it. Some people were really concerned, especially if you're an influencer or someone with a big following who really cares about likes. It was a bit of a blow to your ego, the fact that you can't really show that off. Well, some actually welcomed it. They actually loved the fact that the likes were removed because it made it more about quality versus quantity, which is a game that's very much familiar with anyone who's involved in social media when it comes to wanting to grow your following or wanting to become popular no matter what you're doing. So I thought it'd be great to kind of theorize about this because I do see potentially this being something that other social mediums adopt as well. Like I think I've heard rumors that Twitter might start adopting it when it comes to the amount of retweets and favorites you get on a tweet, where it's maybe only shown to you personally, but it's not shown to anybody else. There's been conversations around rethinking, LinkedIn connections, like all these different things are coming up when it comes to a lot of the numbers based on social media. And I thought it'd be great to talk about it with the both of you, because both of you actually do, outside of, your passion for social media, a lot of the social media aspects are involved in your everyday jobs. And Shimmy, let's begin with you because you are a YouTuber. You've been doing that for a long time. You mentioned earlier that you actually dropped out of school.
Yep. Parents were not happy.
Yeah. And what's interesting about your journey is not only do you have a strong fan base that's very committed, that loves your content, but you actually decided to walk away, and now you're starting to get back into it. So let's touch on that. What's your theory on the fact that Instagram made a move around removing actual numbers when it comes to likes? Are you for it? Are you against it? But also shed some light on the hiatus that you took.
Right. So the relevancy to the Instagram likes not being shown is actually, it ties into my story. And that's because I left social media in the first place because I felt it became a platform where I would say superficialness kind of took over, if that makes sense. And for example, do it for the grams. We do it for the likes, Yeah. And a lot of content is hardcore curated, meaning everything is set up. There's not a lot of like authenticity left on social media other than, sharing your own personal details, because anything and everything is on social media now, And the sheer fact that a platform is testing to take away a vanity metric is kind of alarming, realistically. If we're so all up in arms about not being able to show a metric where someone just likes a piece of content, I feel if you look at it in a dark sense, like there's an issue with that. But then for my story, just quickly short, just the long story short, for my story, I started YouTube back in 2006. And I actually started off with a dance niche called sea walking, and it was a small niche at the time.
And crip walking?
Right, crip walking.
So you became big on YouTube because you used to crip walk in videos?
Right, so I was like a footwork dancer back in the day, and I got well known through the community through that.
Okay, so did you religiously watch America's Best Dance Crew?
I was like, I wasn't those academic Asians. I was those creative Asians. I was the Asians that the parents were not too impressed about. But I mean, there's. I think we can all relate in a as we're all from visible minorities. There's this weird aspect where we don't really celebrate creativity and the arts and that kind of culture, right? So I feel like social media has really brought out that that capability, and it's grown into these titans of networks where it actually psychologically changes people on an everyday basis, And the fact that I was experiencing social media transforming into a superficial type of titan, it really threw me off. Like, I created content from the start to just make people laugh, and I just wanted people to have fun. But then it really turned into a business. And the thing is, I was too young to understand that. I was very naive. And that's the reason why I actually left in the first place, because it became too much, and the hardships of social media, because everything that is good is glorified on social media. Like, everyone posts their best photos, everyone posts their best content. You're never going to show the bad times of your social media. So the thing is, I didn't like how superficial it became and how unauthentic it became. But then as I spent time away from social media and I tried to figure myself out as a person during my hiatus, what came to me was that this was going to happen no matter what. I mean, like, when you go on your social media, it's a huge trend that no matter what industry you're in, there's going to be flexing, Like, everyone likes to show off with what they're doing, and that's completely fine. But then the next trend of what's going to come, in my opinion, is bringing value. Because right now, it's all about really showing what you have in your life. I'm eating this. I'm doing that. This is what I'm going to do next. This is what I'm happy about. But then once you go to someone's social media profile, think of it in this way. If someone is to come to your profile, what experience are you going to provide for them? From those few seconds of impression that you provide for them, what are they really going to get out of going to your profile? And if you can't bring value, you're not going to be ready for what's to come next. Yeah. Because humans right now, we like consumerism. You have to realize that consumers also evolve as well, not just the marketing perspective. So then to give it up that consumers are going to smarten up as well over time, then yeah, they're not going to just want to listen to what people have to say of what's going good in their life, right? They're going to want to know something that inspires them more, that motivates them more, that provides knowledge, educational values, They have to actually get something out of it. And I think that is what's going to be in the next trend. So things for Instagram, for example, to take the initiative to get rid of social media metrics such as likes. Well, what would be the next trend? More than likely comments, right? Like engagement, tactics and methods and alternatives. So what I've been testing actually is when I post on my social media, I'm giving away some of my some tips here, guys. Okay.
Taking notes.
Meanwhile, taking notes as you speak.
Right?
I'm actually recording this. So.
Okay. So there it is. Okay, so we have some evidence. But literally, I ask my viewers questions where they get to open up about their side of the story. Because when you utilize social media, it's all coming from your POV. But people get too tunnel visioned into their own perspective rather than seeing like, hey, social media is literally a two-way platform. But when you're an influencer, you have more followers than the people you're following, right? So it becomes harder in that sense. But then when you put it at like a distinct micro level, what I do is if I even get 200 comments on an Instagram photo, I'll actually respond back to every single comment. And that value, even though it's taking me a lot of time, it entrusts my viewers more to want to stay within my community because I go out of my way to connect with my viewers.
Wow.
Versus someone who potentially has like millions of followers, right? But then it's much harder to connect on a micro level, right? But then we are too obsessed to see it on a large macro level to say like, okay, well, this person has 2 million, 3 million followers. Their influence and their power must be really strong. When in reality, maybe someone who has 10th divided of their number could bring more value and metrics and engagement through their followers. So I think where we're just going is seeing literally the emotional IQ level of how you can connect with your audience. I think that is really where we are next. A simple like on a piece of content, what does that actually even mean?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, and I really appreciate you kind of opening up there because I think that's very important. A lot of things that you touched on, especially when it comes to you yourself being in that influencer position and having to deal with some of these things at a stage where it still hadn't happened. Like, I think now you're starting to see a lot of these prime YouTubers going through sort of the growing pains of being a YouTube influencer and just the negative aspects of it. And, I think about likes as an example. And it's funny you mentioned that people do get obsessed with just liking photos. I know a lot of people that simply whenever they're on the gram, they're just liking. Like they just like
mindlessly.
I'm a victim of that.
Yeah.
I
Like,
do it too.
It's so funny. And then I remember once, I forgot what it was, but somebody had told me something. And I was like, oh, sweet. And they're like, oh, but you liked my post on Instagram. Like, didn't you see it? And then I got called out on it.
Yeah.
And then I got called out on it. And I was like, oh, because they were like a friend of mine. So maybe I was just like, oh, I'll show them a like just because I like what they're doing. But I didn't really pay attention to what they were doing. So I think now what Instagram's doing, and I'm of the feeling that they should keep it. Like, I think they should keep it the way it is because I think it really kind of dissects the platform in further detail and really pushes people to really think more creatively when it comes to posting, or to not think about the like, to think about, some meaningful content when they put it out there.
The quality.
Yeah. Payal, what are your thoughts?
I think the same way because I feel like when it comes to developing content, I want to develop and curate content that I feel that will resonate with my audience. But to your point as well, I find that I get so caught up in that vanity of the amount of likes, and I think that's wrong. I completely agree on that level as well in terms of just really wanting to understand what the audience would really like to see, and I want to purposefully put out content that I feel people will engage with. For example, I myself am vegan, and I feel like I live in the U.S. and I developed a page where I wanted to promote different restaurants that cater to vegans, and I wanted to do something different, but I also wanted to portray this in a sense of really giving back and hoping that people see that there are options for you, and that there are avenues in which you can source this content. And it wasn't about the likes, but I feel like then once you become that influencer, once you create that awareness, then you're having other restaurants that are reaching out to you to be like, hey, why don't you come? There's a little bit of a collaboration there in that, hey, why don't you come check out our place? And in turn, you can eat for free pretty much, right? Mm-hmm. So there's different avenues in that in that sense. But I do feel that there is that vanity I personally find too, in the sense of the likes, and I do want to get away from that as well. And it's just it becomes so like mundane and routine, like as you mentioned, you know what I mean? It
truly is. And I think mundane's a great word for it, because now you're starting to see, like what did I see a couple weeks ago? I saw that you can actually go and there's a space, like you can rent out a private jet if you want to take some photos on it for the gram.
Yep.
And for what purpose? Like for what? Like to your point, Shimmy, you brought up like stunting on the gram. Like for what purpose does that need to happen? When realistically, you're not even living that lifestyle, and you're almost putting yourself in that situation where you're setting yourself up for failure, because again, you're telling people, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I've seen that a lot on the gram. And that's one thing I always try to do with my posts is I never want to post anything that I like, that's not within my reach. Like, for example, like the fact that, like I'm never going to just post something just to say, oh, I was here. And like if I'm at a Raptors game and I have like nosebleed seats, I'm never going to go down to the floor, take a photo, and pretend like I was sitting courtside. Like that'll never, that'll never happen.
People do things like that.
They do.
Because they want to see for levels than that.
Like I've seen people even go as far as pretending that they're going places when they're not. Like I've seen people. Even when it comes to hypebeast culture, you've seen people wearing like fake Supreme or fake Yeezys just because they want people to be like, oh, this person can afford it. But realistically, man, it just takes a toll on your mental health.
Right. So I feel like that's why I left in the first place, because of how social media developed over this time. But the good thing is it also, you get to be selective on the content you choose as well, right? Like you get to choose who you want to follow. So I feel like people tend to forget that as well too, and I myself do as well too. Think of it this way: if your Facebook newsfeed content sucks, it's because your Facebook friends suck, and it's because literally your Facebook newsfeed is literally all your friends' activity. Right. Yeah. So you're kind of in your own bubble based on what networks you're in for your Facebook or any of the social media platforms, right? So I think people tend to forget that that's what's occurring, like literally in front of your face. The issue is you only see what you want to see, right? And then you get too caught up with literally what's going on only in your world, right? So then the issue with that, in my opinion, is that the internet is a tool that anyone can essentially use and open up to. But then we're still making little niches and small communities when we can be doing so much more than that, you know?
No, I agree. I agree.
I think to your point as well, I think it really resonates when you can feel like you relate to someone at a micro level, like you had mentioned when it comes to these influencers that, you know, they're not macro in the sense of like I might not even be able to talk to them, but I feel like when you have this, I do it as well. Like when I have a bunch of comments, I personally respond to them as well, because I want to let my viewers know that I'm engaged as well, and I want to produce content and put content out there that you really understand and you really want to get to know. So that on my level is what I think it goes beyond the likes in that sense too, and you really want to tell a story, and I feel sometimes we do get away from telling that story,
and that's a key component of it, because I don't know you guys, but I don't have a huge following on Instagram, but there have been times I've fallen in the trap where I'll post something, maybe something I'm working on, hoping that it's going to get a lot of attention. And then when it doesn't, it's a bit of a blow to your ego, because you're almost thinking, okay, like this is definitely going to get people interested in a project that I'm working on or something that I've been, focusing on that I just would love to get some support on. And then it just falls flat. And all of a sudden you're like, should I delete it?
So there's this huge psychological sense behind it. You know?
I'm totally opening up here, but whatever.
No. Like, so for me, my most recent Instagram post, for example, I spent 3 days working on the caption, but it's not like a simple one-liner. It was like a full-out kind of like a blurb of like a story, right? It was actually multiple paragraphs, but so it went in depth. But I spent 3 days on it. Like I spent maybe an hour to 2 hours each day. I actually lost the post on the fourth day, and I had to rewrite it again. Wow! And not just that, I actually went through a friend who peer reviewed it to make the story more captivating. And then I was like, man, you did so well. It's not even my work. And he said, well, the main message is still yours. And that's all the effort I went through for an Instagram photo. And even before that, even before I posted the content, I went on a photo shoot with 3 other people who were also like videographers, photographers and production artists. Like, we had a full out team just to get a few epic photos for an Instagram like shot, you know? And that just goes to show and tell you like how much effort it is put into making that lifestyle to represent who you're not truly, but the way you're depicting yourself for others to see, you know?
And it's now a trend. It's become a thing. And to your point too, when you talk about captions, I find I sit there and I'm like trying to think of something captivating that will really get my audience. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's just like, okay, I test out my theories. I'm like, should I do like a 1 sentence or should I do like a whole paragraph? Are people really reading what I'm writing? There's just so many different aspects to look at too. And like, are you looking at your metrics too? Are you saying, oh, is a picture of me posing in a certain way do better than just like a nature shot? Like, it's you consume yourself so much in absorbing and thinking too deep into something that's just, you know, a piece of like a social media medium that
you're probably going to forget about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like that, which usually happens a lot. Like I'll find situations that I'll be in where I'll post something and then again, to your point, like I think captions is another trap. Because people want their caption game to be strong.
People want those really nice, effective one-liners.
Yeah. And again, there are times where I'll post a photo and I'll be like, man, what's the caption? Like, because the caption will make it. And then there's times where it's like, oh no, the caption was whack, or I remember there was once like I did a photo. It was like a nice shot that a friend of mine took of me, and at the time like Travis Scott's album had just come out, and there was a lyric from Frank Ocean's feature on that album that I really liked, so I put it in there, and people were like, yo, caption game on point. Right. Yo, so sick. Like, and you killed it. You killed it.
Superficial serotonin feels amazing. Amazing.
It's like a drug.
It's the song lyrics that do well.
Oh, always.
It's relatability, especially if you choose an artist that people really like love and relate to. Like,
I always turn to my husband too. I'm like, what should my caption be? And he's like, you should really listen to more songs.
It's like, what's the new Drake song? Just take something from there.
It's true.
Because even now, like I'm seeing Drake lyrics pop up a lot, especially with sort of what's going on with the Raptors, and obviously he's had a lot of phrases that involve the six and all that. And again, to your point, like when you use lyrics, all of a sudden it amps up the post a bit and like it makes it very good. But to your point, like I've done like paragraph posts where people were like, "Yo, that's pretty sick." But I've also done paragraph posts where people don't really engage,
right?
And you're almost like, oh, why am I spending so much time on this?
Right. There's so many factors to that, though, right? Like, it really depends on how you want to analyze in the first place. So for me, I used to think, and I still do think exactly this way. I put up a post, I'm like, why didn't it perform as much as it could have?
Yeah.
But how I think now, because I push myself to develop this mindset, is post the next content and see how that does.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, you can't be too focused on the most recent thing you posted, because you're competing against literally millions of pieces of content, right, across everyone's timeline, right? Like, no one follows just one person. People follow numerous amounts of people.
Exactly.
So you have to remember, the main algorithm is consistency, literally. There's just so many positive factors to it.
You're right, because I find that I tell myself I'll put a content calendar together and I'll go about it and I'll try to post a piece of content every day.
Yeah.
And you're right. And I find that if I go months or weeks without posting, I'm not going to see the same results as I do if I was posting on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But I also want to get your guys' thoughts on hashtags and how much do you feel as though they're a major part of the whole Instagram, transcending audiences? Because I feel like, I personally feel hashtags are now the way in which people are going to see your content too, based on, anything that they're searching within the search bar. And I find now, I mean, it's something that I feel I do is put my hashtag in my comments. So my my whole.
Yeah,
it's a best practice for sure.
It is. It's a practice that one of my homies taught me, and it makes the post look less cluttered, and also it shows like view one comment, and it's like a bunch of hashtags, a bunch of periods, and all that. Hashtags is interesting. I've gone down the hashtag route because, again, when I first launched this show, I really wanted to grow the following on the gram. So I was hashtagging different aspects, different topics that were related to it, and it did help. It did help. There was obviously some of the bot accounts that will follow you that expect to follow back, which I think is automatic. I think that's just sophisticated software that people use to grow a following.
Right.
But I've also seen people that throw every hashtag on there, hoping for someone to bite, and it really depends. Like, it really depends, because sometimes I've seen people hashtag stuff in their posts that you can just tell they're just like looking for the like they're hoping that someone clicks the hashtag, sees their post, and they get discovered, or they end up getting some big endorsement deal. But I don't know, Shimmy, what's your thoughts? Like when it came to like you growing your following, did you like use a lot of hashtags? Like, was there a lot of SEO? Like, what was it all about?
Yeah, so hashtags would be definitely SEO, right? Like search engine optimization. Hashtags, literally the stuff that people are looking up keyword wise. So just some tips out there for people who actually care about this stuff. The thing is, no, seriously, like people take this stuff seriously. For example,
you're right.
You can only have a maximum of 20 hashtags in a post. So if you go over, all of your hashtags actually will not work, for example. So don't go over 20.
Is that only for Instagram or for everything?
Instagram for sure.
Gotcha.
I'm not too sure about the other platforms, but
people
I don't think
put
there's
too many hashtags really in Twitter anymore, unless you're involved in a conversation.
You're right.
I've seen people that will tweet like four words, and then they'll hashtag the hell out of their tweet, and then I think it just doesn't look appealing. Like,
I don't think it's the right platform for it, because Twitter is like micro conversations, right? 280 characters of whatever you want to say in your thoughts.
Exactly.
But sorry, like back to what you were saying, I think it's really crazy to where social media has developed, right? In that sense, but I still feel for social media, there's still so much to go, right? Like things like Instagram to just be testing. Hey, let's get rid of likes. Who in the world would have thought that? Like after so many years to test something out like that.
But can you imagine YouTube getting rid of views?
Right, but then like
how are you being judged then? Right,
Exactly.
like that's the interesting part.
Right, so they make it more challenging for the content creator, right? So that's why I think, because we're going to get rid of like likes, which is visibly seen by everyone, what's visibly seen next? Comments, right?
Yeah.
So I think the next trend, if you kind of haven't noticed through marketing, is asking questions. Literally, you ask a question for your audience.
Engagement.
Right.
Yes.
It's a simple bait engagement tactic. But then I feel over time people might catch on to that as well too, right?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the whole thing that made social media so interesting when it came to celebrities and influencers, was engagement. Because, for example, like getting your first retweet from a celebrity, like all of a sudden you're like, wow, the celebrity noticed me. Like someone that I've watched on TV or I've listened to their music, they've actually taken the time out to read my tweet and repost it, or like my Instagram page. And it was always that sense that these people are now reachable. And I find it interesting, like, especially with the approach that you're taking, when the fact that you're actually responding to your comments. Like, I think that's a great layer, man. I think that's awesome. Because
I feel the community that you build is everything of yourself.
It is 100%.
How can I not be thankful for all the opportunities I've been giving without my audience, right? Realistically, I feel as people tend to grow like a stronger influence, especially online, they tend to forget like where they come from. Yeah. You know, like you got to really remember like who made you there in the first place.
Be humble.
Right, exactly. And I feel what I've been trying to do after my hiatus and the thoughts around like the type of content I want to produce is actually involving my viewers as the community, literally, because if they're going to help me curate the content, they're going to stick around, right? If they like the content, why wouldn't they stick around, you know?
Exactly.
So I feel like, yes, like you explain your thoughts as whoever you are, like an influencer or whatever you describe yourself as. Like you say your thoughts of what you want to say, but you can't forget the ones who are listening to you, truly.
Exactly.
You know,
Payal, you have actually had experience managing like business accounts, organizational accounts. We mentioned your work with NBA Canada, some of the NBA teams. When it comes to being responsible to grow these followings, sort of organically or through different approaches, what has been your approach when it comes to the content that you focus on when it comes to some of these platforms? And, if, for example, you're working with a client or an organization or a team and they no longer have their social media likes visible to the public, but only internally, what would be your thought process in regards to getting a lot of traction and making sure that a campaign is successful?
I would want to see what the data is, and when it comes to the audience, if there was a way in which to grab like the analytics behind that. But like to begin, for example, I remember at NBA Canada, it was a way like we had the NBA, right? But how did we differ from the NBA to NBA Canada? Like what stood out for us that would really resonate with this Canadian audience? So for us, it was, we were seeing an influx of Canadians playing the game of basketball, and that we're going to be part of the NBA.
The Carter effect.
Yeah, pretty much. Exactly. Yeah. And so first and foremost, my main focus was to really provide Canadian content that was exclusive to each of our platforms. And that was through the use of, exclusive videos that I would literally sit and watch multiple games and cut clips and try to at that time try to be the first to post, because if you miss a step, then someone else has already got that piece of content and it's already going viral. I think being viral was something that you really needed to do in order to really put yourself out there. And then for us, it was the Canadian players, and then it was the Raptors. And it was like, because that was Canada's team, a lot of the great pieces of content came in the off season when these players, for the Canadian players, would come and do their camps, and like you could bank some of that content and then really post it at your leisure as well. But when it came to building out campaigns, I think the NBA was great in terms of working together with that, right? And when you have a following like you do with the NBA, and when they would retweet our content or repost and reshare our content, I think that really resonated. And having events like All-Star Weekend in your backyard, and having that opportunity to get access to players and really talk to them about what is it like to be here the first time the All-Star Game's outside of the U.S., and get their thoughts. I think asking those questions was another avenue in which we were able to really build our base, really get content out there that was relatable.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think it touches on what Shimmy mentioned too. I think at the end of the day, engagement's number one. I think that's going to be the true test when we see what these social media feeds, social media mediums implement when it comes to not showcasing numbers affiliated with certain posts, is how are they going to take it a step further and engage? Peeps, this has been a lot of fun so far.
Really fun.
So much fun.
Talking basketball, talking about social media likes, talking, I saw some tears earlier when it comes to social media. I saw some tears when it came to the Raptors and what they're going to be facing tomorrow, and hopefully they bring it home. Everyone has a good feeling about it. But, I want to shift a little bit. It's no secret that the weather is getting a lot better. I finally feel like summer is here. I didn't think we were going to get a summer, because I think a few weeks ago it was like blistering cold and rainy. And Payal, you're based in Miami now, so you're probably used to summertime no matter what. But I just wanted to kind of get your perspectives on the summer season. A lot of people look at the summer as a way to unwind, as a way to relax. Usually, if you work a corporate job, people are usually taking holidays around this time. Again, when it comes to media, like a lot of shows have ended right now, and the summer is usually a good break, to not consume that much content. Sports are coming to an end, and then you have like your summer sports kicking in, like your baseball and your soccer, and even if you're a CFL fan, your football. But now, one thing I did want to talk about from the summer season is sometimes it can be quite tasking on a few people. Some people may look at the summer season with the days getting longer as, being a bit lazy and also not being as motivated, which is quite surprising, because you would think that people would love to be in an environment where it's nice and the weather's allowing them to be more active and be out there. But some people look at it as the opposite. And I remember stumbling upon an article talking about the summer blues and how this actually exists. So wanted to pick both your brains and get some theories on sort of summertime and what you do to make the most out of the season, and how do you stay positive, because it's very easy in the summertime to get lazy and then have that lazy mindset kind of kick in and maybe not want to do things. But then there's another opportunity in really using the summer to your advantage and having a lot of fun and go traveling and going out to festivals and eating lots of fatty foods. So, Payal, we'll begin with you. When it comes to, well, you live in a predominantly summer area now in Miami.
That I do.
Yeah. So when it comes to having summer all year long, like, do you find that mentally you're like, it's a great environment for you to be in, and how do you sort of perceive it based on the fact that you grew up in Canada and you were only used to summer being from like May to September if we were lucky? So just want to get your thoughts. Like, how do you keep positive during the summer months?
I find that, like, right now living in Miami, I find that the mood is always a little bit more uplifting, engaging, just because you see the sun so much more when you're living there. However, as these summer months come upon us, it's going to get really hot. I mean, you think it's going to get hot in Toronto, it's going to be like next level hot over there. And so, I mean, I remember when I first moved there too, I mean, the winters were different as well, right? Because I didn't need a winter jacket, but as the summer rolls around, like, you don't need a jacket in Miami. And I remember one of the first things was when I first moved, my husband was like, because I had asked him about, oh, where do I put my coat? He's like, oh, we don't have coat racks in Miami. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. But I do feel as though when I'm living there, it definitely helps in terms of the happiness you feel, just because, like I mentioned, like you're getting the sun rays and you're seeing just everyone's in a good mood. Yeah. Whereas the weather here is always, it always depends,
it's
right?
There's, like tomorrow we're expecting rain and thunderstorms on the biggest day in Canadian sports. What's going on?
Yeah, I feel like as a Canadian, you have to have a certain type of discipline because you expect winter to come. Yeah. Like, you have to prepare for winter, like winter driving, winter clothing, like everything, you know? Yeah. So as someone who doesn't come from like Canadian weather, let's say, if they come to Canada, you really have to adapt to how our lifestyle is over here.
I actually had that conversation with the Starbucks barista where she was speaking, and I could tell she was from Australia, and I was literally in the drive-thru and waiting for my drink, so I just started talking to her, and she was telling me how she's only been here for about a year, and I was like, man, I feel sorry for you because the last year the weather has not been good. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, I know. She's like, now it's getting better, but the winter was pretty tough.
But they're actually not used to this crazy fluctuation we have in our weather.
They're not.
In the past few months, like, it's actually been chilly when it should be summer, like we're kind of discussing. So I feel like you literally have to have this form of like discipline as a Canadian to be able to take on like any weather, depending on where you live.
And I think that kind of goes into my next my next point is really around like when it is blistering hot outside, when it is beautiful, it can also take a toll on you physically where you don't want to do anything. Like, I notice a lot of people when it is plus 30 degrees, and chances are it'll probably get like that later in the summer, where it's almost detrimental to go outside because it takes a lot out of you, and people just get extra lazy, or they just don't want to do anything, and it's very, very demotivating, right? So I think to your point, it does take a toll.
Right.
Think about it.
I actually haven't thought about it in that way, that when you get so hot that you don't want to do anything. Because like, even if you look at pets, when they get too hot and they're panting, all they do is lay there. You know what I mean? So it's obviously going to be the same for us, like when it gets too hot. And even though like you're from really, really hot areas right now in Miami, like Canada still gets pretty hot as well.
It does.
And like when you're standing downtown, like in the middle of summer, like you're sweating, like the sun is beaming on you, like everyone's around you like sweating as well. It's like not the greatest feeling at the same time.
It's not. I can walk to work right now, and when I'm walking to work, I just feel so sweaty, and by the time I get in, I'm like, oh my goodness, give myself a minute, right?
Let me take a shower, please.
But it does become taxing on your body, I find too, because you're trying to really focus at work too, and like you said, like your mind is just wandering other places as well, because I would see right now at work, people are taking their vacations. There's not much people around the office. Like there's differences in like what you're doing, and so it's kind of building that focus and like planning for what's coming up ahead and like the campaigns that you might be unveiling. hopefully that kind of shifts your mindset into the now and the here and now. So that's how I kind of perceive it in that sense.
Well, do you both feel the summer blues exist? Because summer blues are defined as literally people not wanting, because of the hot weather, they just, they become less productive, they become less social, they just kind of want to stay inside. It's the opposite of, I guess, the winter blues, when it's really cold.
Like seasonal depression. Right.
And I'm wondering, do you think that's a real thing? Has it ever happened to you? I'm wondering, and I'm curious because, Payal, you now are in a place where it's summer all year long. Do you find that, I don't know, do you find that you're used to it now, that when you come back home, it's just like, oh, okay, cool? Or is it something that maybe other people who maybe are dealing with other things are probably dealing with?
I personally miss the seasons.
Yeah.
I find that there's only two extremes. It's either hot or really hot in Florida, right? And so for me, it becomes a challenge. I find it's a challenge because it's March and I don't have my winter jacket on, or it's like when I come to Toronto, I feel there's a sense of fresh, crisp air. You know what I mean? And I think that is what I find is missing in Florida at times, because at least when I come home, there's this breeze you'll feel right now. You know what I mean? It's just it's nice, and it's it's fitting for what the season is. But I can see how it still is it still will take a toll, and it can be very mind-numbing in ways. So
has the concept of a vacation changed for you then? In regard, everyone here in Canada, especially in the wintertime, it's oh, I want to go out somewhere hot, I want to relax. Even when I was in Florida, it was really hot. Yeah. And just so happens that the weather was getting better in Toronto too. But that's always the notion, is that let's escape where it's warm. We don't have to wear the layers, or we can, let loose a little bit and just relax. For you, being in a hot place all year long, do you want to go somewhere cold now for vacation?
Yeah, I still think about travel. I still think about vacation, but no, I don't really think that I do want to go somewhere cold. It's interesting because, for example, this summer we're planning to go to India, which is more extreme hot.
Yes.
So
yes. Blistering hot.
Right? Especially, and you try to go because our jobs don't allow us to go during the winter months. So it's just a little bit more challenging. But I'm going to be going to more extreme hot, but I feel I might be able to bear that now because I'm in an environment where maybe the temperatures are kind of the same in that sense. Dry air, and it's it's not like it is here. I find that there's not much of a brisk wind or anything like that really seeps through. So maybe more so in the December, November months.
Yeah, no, true. Shimmy, what about you, man? You're out here in Toronto with all of us, or sorry, Peel,
Peel region,
Saga Brampton represent. How would you sort of describe your moods throughout the seasons? And is summer for you the season that you look forward to the most? And when you're in, in the summer, what's something that you usually do to kind of keep you happy?
For me, I think based on the scientific aspect, even maybe before that, it depends on the person's ongoings in their life. If they're already dealing with hardships, and even though maybe because summer is supposed to be that glorious feeling, the warmth and, the good times in summertime. But if you're not in the greatest point in life, I feel that would be a drawback, even though it's summer, which is supposed to be really more of a positive experience for you. So I feel it really depends on how people are going into summer with whatever mindset they have. So if you're feeling good already ahead of time and summer's here, it's only going to amplify that feeling, is how I feel about it. But then if you're not doing so hot in life and then you go into summer, it's not going to be a good time.
Yeah. So it's very much based on your current situation.
Right. That's how I would look at it. But then I can also see the theory of seasonal depression disorder, where you get sad because it becomes winter. Yeah. But then I just can't wrap my head around how it would be if summer were to be here. But then when you started going a little more deeper about if it gets too hot, that actually makes so much sense. You know? And then
because that's the trigger for winter seasonal depression, is when it gets really cold.
Right. So
Yeah.
Right.
Hibernation, right?
Yeah.
In the winter time.
Like it's always that sense of laziness that kicks in that allows some of these symptoms, I guess, to kick in. But okay, well, if we want to take it take it a step further, we talk about the workplace, obviously, and we all work in workplaces in our full time sort of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. So obviously there's things like half day Fridays, summer hours. There's people that take a lot of vacations. Anyone that has kids, they're usually, out of the office July, August, because that's like prime children holidays when it comes to, elementary school, middle school, high school. How would you describe some of these benefits that we get when it comes to working a day job and getting summer hours? Like, do you find that, are you putting in sort of the extra time to get those hours? Do you find that, in the sense that you always look at the summer as being historically a slow time, even though I think for all three of our current careers, it's usually a busy time because we're usually getting things ready for the next year.
Right.
But what's your thoughts on some of the benefits that come with summer? And do you feel like some of those benefits should be applied maybe all year long just to kind of keep up that positivity and allowing you to stay productive, throughout the entire year?
I think so. I think a study I know in Europe was talking about how they have these 4-day work weeks. And I personally find that either the summer Fridays or like half days really help with your productivity. Even like the ability to work from home, I would say, I think, really help in progressing what you're planning or what you're thinking, because it really kind of sets your mindset in terms of a different shift in focus when you're in a different environment or when you have the opportunity to take that break. And then I think the summer definitely helps with that, especially when it comes to, it's a time where it's a lot of planning. It's a lot of really trying to figure out what will work next.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I find there is that play.
It's always funny because I think that's the case in a lot of workplaces, but that's also, summer's a time where not a lot of people are in the office. Yep. So to get some of this major planning done, it's almost detrimental because a lot of people that maybe are needed to approve some of these plans or needed to move the needle on something that you're thinking about, it typically happens in September, October, and there's always this rush because people weren't around. Like maybe I'm just speaking on personal experience, but Shimmy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel in the summertime, given those opportunities, like Friday, some days you get let out Friday, and people who have kids, they get let out early at times because of summer.
Yeah,
I think all those things boost productivity. Like, how do they not? I feel companies really need to understand how startups are really shifting the environment, especially for employment.
For sure.
And it really starts with this level of trust. So I feel companies, for example, startups, they tend to actually give their employees remote access, like 200% remote access. Like they get to do whatever they want kind of thing, as long as the work gets done, But then I know that's a little off topic from the summer aspect, but I feel startup environments, they kind of embrace those things too,
they do.
Right.
Well, to your point, a lot of startup environments embrace sort of this whole summer mentality throughout the entire year.
Exactly. Yeah. And so building on top of that, I feel it's kind of just like a sudden shift and change for employment in general, right? And for some reason, as we're analyzing earlier, during summertime is a lot of when we implement those things to kind of boost relaxation for employees, which would, in theory, boost productivity as well, right?
Yeah.
And to be given that entrusting feeling as an employee to take the time to go vacation or be let out early, why wouldn't that make me want to work harder?
Because sometimes there's that sticker shock, right? Where when like you take but when you actually take that last half day Friday before Labor Day, and then after Labor Day everyone's back, you kind of sense like some people are like, oh, okay, now we're back into the swing of things, and it's just going through the motions again.
That's true. That's
people are trying to get ramped up again because, I notice a lot in my previous work environments that people do get very happy and jolly in the summer, and then, then people come back in September and it's very stressful. October is like the same thing. November kind of slows down, and then December everyone's kind of in summer mode again because it's Christmas break. People are happy that the year's coming to an end and getting ready and all that. But yeah, I like the point that both of you guys have brought up regarding if we kind of use some of these ideas all throughout the year, you almost get a lot of more. You almost apply a lot more benefits to your employees and allows them to stay productive and more happy, which is great. What are some of the things that you guys do in this? Like how do you usually plan your summer? Do you guys usually have like rituals every year when the summer months come about? Do things ramp up for you in your personal life? Are there usually travel plans that you guys put into place for the summer months? Are there certain things that you try to do during the summertime that really benefit your own sort of personal and mental health that you think can only take place in the summer that you usually look forward to each and every year? I'm curious, like, what are some of these rituals that you guys put in play when the summer months roll around? And Payal, we'll begin with you.
Well, one of my favorite things to do is knowing when summer's coming or that shift to summer is I love just having the ability to just roll down my windows and just
The moment you can do that, it's
right?
so therapeutic. And the music goes
Isn't
on.
it?
It's great.
It really is.
That's the official sign right there.
Yes, that's the one. And I love, one of my favorite things to do is love going to festivals.
Yeah, me too.
And just being amongst a crowd of people and just really taking in the culture of the city.
Yeah.
Is one of my favorite things to do. And then I find that everyone's like out and about, either patios. Patio season is one of my favorite.
When you sit on that first patio, I think it's officially summertime. Even yesterday, I went to the farmer's market close to my condo, and I saw people sitting on the grass.
On their on the patios.
People were on the patios. People were sitting on the grass. People were buying, fresh fruit, fresh veggies. My wife and I had there was a grill that was there, and they're making fresh breakfast sandwiches. And you could tell, I'm like, all right, summer's here. Finally, people are happy, in a good mood. And, you can only do things like that when the weather's nice, right?
Right. Literally in wintertime, what can you realistically do outside? Other than skiing, snowboarding, but those things you have to go and prepare for.
Yeah.
You can't just go walk around the block like you can in summer. Exactly. So I feel summertime really allows you to be more mobile as well, right? You can literally go out and walk. For example, people would much rather walk than drive in the summertime because it's so nice, for example, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like summertime, in the psychological sense, also pushes you to just want to do more things, especially in a physical activity way. Mm-hmm. You can't do beach volleyball or beach kind of physical activity things in the wintertime, for example, right?
Yeah.
So just really the environment really pushes people to just go out and explore more. But back to the whole topic, it could be opposite for some people as well.
It could be. It could be.
For sure.
Right.
And again, I think this kind of relates back to social media. I think a lot of people will turn on their social feeds and see people living their best lives in the summer and just be like, man, I can't afford that. I can't do that. And it's almost this pressure of wanting to, live it up and try to match what other people are doing.
Right.
And the summer is guilty because there's so many things that are happening in the summer, right? One of the things I wanted to talk about when it comes to the weather was I remember for my buddy's bachelor party in Montreal, there was I think it was called Winterfest. It was an outdoor music festival that happened in the winter. And already I was I love music festivals, so already I was excited.
It sounds like a unique experience.
I was like, this is different. Diplo was playing. I got there and it was freezing cold. To the point where I felt my toes were getting numb. And I was dressed warmly too, but my toes were getting numb. I had the heat packs in my gloves. People were trying to drink beer, but the beer is also cold too.
You could freeze too.
Yeah,
oh my God.
And I did not have a good time. And it was one of those things where for me, to your point, Shimmy, there's only certain things that you could really live it up properly during these types of months versus the winter months. As much as people like to try, as much as people I do love a good barbecue in the winter because I think it's kind of cool when you're near
it's
the heat.
eating ice cream in the winter too.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Barbecue in the winter?
Yeah.
Oh, I've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
So do you literally open up the grill during winter and do everything normal it's summer?
It mainly happens when you're at a winter cottage. And you'll see, and you're they have a deck, and you just kind of open it up. Even hot tubbing in the winter is pretty fun too.
That is
I heard
common,
about that.
But outside of that, I don't think I'd ever do another winter music festival.
That's in theory. It sounds like it would be fun though.
The concept sounded fun.
Yeah.
I think to your point, it just wasn't the summer, right?
Right. And I feel like a music festival, you want to move around a lot and be crazy.
Yeah.
But then if you do that in winter clothing, like you're gonna get all like hot and sweaty.
Yeah.
Like,
and then you're gonna shed these layers, but then you're gonna be cold 2 seconds later, so you're gonna put them back on.
And I saw some people that were not dressed appropriately.
Like they're wearing too thinly, or
I guess they thought because it was a festival they could roll in wearing summer attire. It was not good.
I never understood that. I never understood that. There was a guy who I went to elementary school with, I remember, who would always wear shorts in the winter, but it was so cold outside, so I was like, but what are you thinking?
Everyone knows one person that as soon as it gets to that +1 or 2, shorts are coming out.
Right?
it's like, a positive digit, right?
It does. There's always that one person that's going to rock the shorts, that's going to just really live it up, and you just nod your head being like, why?
Exactly.
It's like kind of wearing like Canada Goose jackets. Like I swear I saw it like in October. Like people were wearing it in October.
And they're like sweating. And
like they seem to be fine, right? So I'm not sure, but I guess it's like a similar concept, just opposite, right?
Yeah.
Right.
How would you describe the way summer fits within your current life? So, for example, right now, as we're kind of approaching, as we're approaching the first day of summer, now that we're into June, what are do you guys usually have? I'm trying to think, like, based on the fact that obviously January is the start of the year, everyone's trying to get back into things. Is the summer at all used for any reflection for you guys? Like, do you guys typically use the summer months to be like, okay, well, I'm halfway through the year, I've done this, now I want to do this? Like, do you do any preparation for the remainder of the year? Are you starting to think about the next year? Like, how do you use the summer months at all as a way to prepare yourself or the way to get better in something?
I think I do, and I like that the days are longer and that there's more sunlight outside too, so it really helps me reflect more.
Yeah, nice.
On like what's happening and kind of shift my focus to the goals that I have, kind of reinvent my vision board, you know what I mean? And then kind of put goals and objectives of what I want to achieve in the coming year, because at times I feel like September is kind of like that shift to a new year beginning in that sense too, with like work and whatnot.
Exactly. Shimmy, what about you, man?
Man, I feel, summer, when they say like you got to look your best because the beach bod aspect, I feel like I gotta work out and such, you gotta look ready because.
Wait, you didn't work out in January?
No, man, I was not, unfortunately, and I feel like I need to start now. Maybe get the gains by the end of the summer, But I feel summertime is just a time to push yourself the most, because wintertime you're really restricted.
You are.
As we kind of talked about, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't be going hard in winter as well. But summertime, because you're provided so much more capacity of opportunity, why wouldn't you go hard? Everyone is possibly in a better mood, for example. So you want to play off of that positive and good energy with everything you do during the summertime.
As a creator, like a YouTube creator, are the summer months usually your most busiest time where you bank a lot of content, or what?
Right. So, for example, if you're the type to utilize the outdoors, right? Well, like if it's wintertime, you're kind of secluded to only winter scenarios, so then you'd be stuck to scenarios like that. But then the summertime, it really allows you to utilize not just the scenery of things, but people are out and about. If you're the type to interview people or prank people, there's plenty of people in the sea, right, out on the streets in the summertime, right? But in wintertime, it's a lot more difficult because of like the challenge of winter in itself. So I think summertime in general, even for a content creator, it's literally the best time. And then if you do things publicly, like there's people who tend to go like in LA, right? Like the beaches. They always interview people there because it's a nice scenery and people are always in a good mood there, right?
Exactly.
And they don't really have like a true winter. So it's just like the perfect spot to shoot videos, for example.
That's awesome.
This is why people come to Miami too.
Exactly.
Oh, I noticed it. When I was in Miami a few weeks ago, I was hanging out in Wynwood. I think I was telling you. Like everybody everyone was in such a happy mood. It felt like a Parkdale, but all year long. Just summertime in Parkdale, summertime in Ossington. Just everyone having a good time, living their best life, and all the shops, all the restaurants were friendly. And like my wife and I turned to each other like, we're not used to this. Like we're not used to just the environment here. Like as much as we love Parkdale, and we love Ossington, we love those areas of Toronto. Like in the wintertime, you're not really really you're not really walking around really exploring.
It's like a ghost town in the wintertime, right?
Yeah. You're probably just going to restaurants, probably just going to bars, but you're not like exploring the outdoors.
Yeah, like where I live in Markham, like Main Street Unionville is like popping right now with like just the amount of people that you're seeing. But like you go through that street and that strip during the winter time, and like it's secluded. Like there's absolutely no one. You know, it's interesting.
But no, I want to give a huge shout out to my wonderful guests, Shimmy, Coco Puffs, as well as Payal Doshi. Thank you guys for joining us here on New Theory Radio. We talked about Bandwagon fans. I think we all declared that Bandwagon fans, it's all good. Come join us on the Raptors train, including you, Shimmy. We talked about social media likes. It's not about the likes. It's about the content. It's about engagement. And then we talked about summer. Just have fun in the summer. You know, if you're not having fun, if you're someone that's going through something, definitely go talk to your friends. Go talk to someone about it, because we want everyone to enjoy the hot months. And I think I want to use this remainder this remainder time that we have left here on the show, just to kind of allow my guests to kind of promote anything that they're working on, anything that they're doing, social media feeds. So Payal, let's begin with you, because you have a lot on the go.
I do. I have my own Vegans of Miami page on Instagram, so go ahead and follow that.
Okay.
Vegans of Miami. Anytime you're in the city and need a place to go, and there's many options on my page. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, you can follow along with me on Twitter and Instagram at Payal Doshi TV.
Awesome. And then what will your podcast? Is it coming back?
Oh, yes, my podcast. Can't forget about that one.
Yeah.
My podcast, Passion Projects. It's all about getting to know the person and who has their... Sorry, I'm getting so excited about my podcast.
It's good. That's your passion. You're showing passion, right?
Just passionate about passion projects.
So it's all about someone who has their passion, has made it their career and or kept it as their side hustle. So go on and take a listen. I'm on SoundCloud, and you can follow the link in my bio on Twitter as well.
Awesome. And Shimmy, you got always a lot on the go, man. Where can people connect with you?
Well, I would love you all, if you could, to follow me on my social media profiles, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just look up Shimmy Coco Puffs, ShimmyCocopuffs. Making a comeback on YouTube. Been producing a lot of content. Don't call it a comeback. Yo, don't call it a comeback. Are we playing music
now?
Been here for years. But my comeback is gonna be it's gonna be about providing value. I want to inspire people. I want to motivate. Just want to make people happy, and just develop a community where we can all grow together and be a serious family, and hopefully connect with everyone on this planet and do good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, no, I love that. And again, special thanks to both you guys for joining us. And if you want to connect with New Theory Radio, it's at New Theory Radio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as check out our archived episodes on www.newtheoryradio.com, as well as Spotify and iTunes. Just search up New Theory Radio. This episode will be up tomorrow. And you can connect with me at Nav Nanwa on Instagram, or at nnanwa on Twitter, and connect with Saga 960 AM. It's at Saga 960 AM across Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us. We're doing a special Father's Day episode next week, so definitely tune in, and you will hear all of us next time. Peace.